Welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast, and in this episode we're going to revisit the Insidious franchise. Very scary franchise, one of my favorite horror franchises to date. We have so much to break down, so stick with us. Dylan, let's get your overall thoughts on Insidious.
Great franchise in the genre of horror. I think it really brought something new to the table. For horror, and I always got it confused with the Conjuring universe because it's so similar. I mean, it's James Wan and, Patrick Wilson's in it too. Sure. So, and it has like similar tones, but I think the Conjuring universe does a better job of connecting the lore, whereas Insidious is kind of like inconsistent sometimes.
Absolutely. But
I think the first two were great. The second two felt kind of like out of place for the story. Mm-hmm. And then, we'll see what this new one brings. But I did love, of course, Patrick Wilson in the first two movies and Ty Simpkins as Dalton. I think that father-son relationship was really the core of where the story was. But I know you're a big fan of the series. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, the first one I think was really James Wan had this outside the box type of thinking, where he approached different scenarios and tried to go against those cliches, but make you think that he was going to do or reenact some certain trope. And I really like how he played with our expectations and stuff. And the cinematography and the lighting was really great. I think those movies will always be iconic just for the color grading that's like bluish greenish as well. So it's a shame that Chapter 3 and The Last Key kind of stepped away from that, and they also shot themselves in the foot too with getting rid of Elise, or at least killing off Elise, because they kept on going back to her later on, so it's like inconsistent. And plus these were prequels, so it probably will throw people back. It's kind of like Johnson.
She's gonna come back as a force ghost in the new one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't like how they do that. I do hope that Insidious The Red Door, we're going to review it tonight, so I can't wait for you guys to see that. I hope that this movie, though, by the time of this recording, is actually amazing. It's being directed by Patrick Wilson, so high hopes for that. But for the most part, I think the ghosts designs were cool as well, the way how they were implemented in the house itself. That's why cinematography plays a key role whenever you're filming stuff inside a house. Like, look at Hereditary, that masterpiece in doing that with set decoration and whatnot. And the performances were great too. Mm-hmm. So
the ghosts or the demons felt a little bit more personified than perhaps stuff we've seen with like the Blair Witch Project, where it was like kind of up to your imagination. But here we see like the red demon, and we see like the lady in black dress. Mm-hmm. It's a bit more like I said, personified. You can see them, and there was like a few jump scares here and there, but for the most part they're like kind of like remain hidden. It's kind of like in those dark corners, right? That's kind of like where your mind festers, right? And I do think they're like they were really like iconically designed. I think a lot of people were like at the time like really like terrified of them. So I think these movies were really trendsetters for a lot of movies that we've seen now, like with the Boogeyman, and we did plenty of like other horror movie like what's the movie we just did? Oh, Run Rabbit Run.
Right.
I think like the techniques that they used for showcasing the monsters of the ghosts, right? Or even like the lore they've crafted. We see elements of that in like Stranger Things, like with the Further, right? Like it's beyond what a ghost story is, or like a haunting, right? It's this kind of like transdimensional world where like your mind kind of like wanders, right? And it's not just like this haunting, right? You have to also kind of escape this world too, right?
Yeah, and I enjoy that aspect of it because it's sort of refreshing that there's so much of a supernatural element to these movies rather than how The Conjuring does things. Well, I think The Conjuring actually feels, for me personally, a little bit more scarier because there's some mention of certain demons and their names, and if you look at some texts, they're there. And the way how they approach things, for me at least, has some historical footing, apparently. So that's why I'd prefer the Conjuring universe over this one, I must say. But I only prefer that too because, Insidious 3 and Insidious The Last Key was kind of lackluster. It didn't have that. They kind of shot themselves in the foot again, the chronological stuff. And it just wasn't the same flavoring as the first two. But nonetheless, you could tell that James Wan learned a lot from doing the first two movies and then took that and applied it to The Conjuring. And that's why The Conjuring is so big as it is today. And there's so many spin-offs and whatnot. I bet you guys don't remember the Curse of La Llorona. I sure don't remember that. I forgot all about that movie. But they're great. They're great films, I think, especially iconic with the lipstick face demon, or Darth Maul, as a lot of people say. He's always super scary. That first jump scare in the first movie, I think, will always be iconic. It's so amazing, right?
Sorry, I keep thinking of the window shot where it's like, it's so stupid.
What movie was that in? Was that Last Key? I forgot.
God, I can't remember.
I think it was Last Key, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Last Key. It was like it was so random.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely terrifying. The other demons, there was like that guy that had also a long tongue. I remember they had like slick back hair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's so many. I think it's just very atmospheric, very spooky, and then plus you have the musical score.
The music's so unsettling.
It's very unsettling. Yeah, it's not like I wouldn't listen to this music on my own, like just putting this on while editing or something like that. I'll be like so weird if I did that. But this music, I think it's really proprietary.
Horror ASMR.
Yeah, exactly. And it only fits like in one setting, really. And I think it's like these movies, you could, it's amazing. It honestly is. It's amazing. They use every element of a movie, I think, masterfully. Especially Insidious 1, Insidious Chapter 2 was more story driven. I'd say, So yeah.
Yeah, I like also that the horror kind of like follows the character, because if you notice in a lot of movies, like the evil or the villain, whatever, it's always based on a setting. Like Halloween is like Haddonfield, or Jason Voorhees Camp Crystal Lake, whatever. But here it kind of like follows the characters, because like in the first movie they kind of like move from like house to house, but it's still there. It still follows you, and I think that's what makes it scarier. Is like you're not safe just from moving physically, right? It's this demon or this evil like is in another plane or another dimension, so it's like wherever you go you're not really safe, right? So I think that is kind of the nuance that James Wan brings to this universe. It's like something we've never seen before in horror, where like the horror follows you, right? And we've seen it in so many other movies now, right?
Yeah, and I love that. Because of that, I think you have a lot more flexibility. If they decide to do something in a warehouse or whatever, or even a different country, I think they could do a lot more with that in mind. Let's just get a quick rundown of these movies. So we have Insidious 2010, Insidious Chapter 2 2013, Insidious Chapter 3 2015, Insidious The Last Key 2018, and now Insidious The Red Door 2023. Out of these movies, obviously excluding Insidious The Red Door, which one do you think is the best and which one do you think is the weakest?
I think it's pretty safe to say the first one is the best. I mean, it set up this universe really well. The sequel is pretty strong. I'm not going to lie. I like the kind of reversal, like the son had to save the father too. And of course, we had Elise, she's a strong, prominent character too. But I think the first one just does a really good job of setting things up masterfully, and like you don't know what to expect, right? By the second one, you kind of have the rules established of this world, so it's like you're kind of used to it, but it's still scary nonetheless. The weaker ones, I mean, the last two, to be honest, were pretty weak, to be honest, but I think at least I think it was Chapter 3 tried to stay consistent with Elise's storyline, whereas like the Red Door, I'm sorry, the Last Key, it was supposed to be a sequel, but it didn't really go anywhere, to be honest. It tried to play more on the supernatural elements, but then we didn't even get much with like the further or anything, so it was kind of lackluster for me. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like the first one for sure, I think, will always remain. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Red Door, because it looks like they're trying to go back to their roots. This is like the true sequel. Because in the order, if you had to put this in order, it'll be Insidious 3, Insidious The Last Key, Insidious Chapter 2, and then the Red Door. But I feel Conjuring does it better with their continuity. Conjuring, I think, they make it feel like this universe. Rather, these movies feel like it's just sticking with a close group of characters, and it's staying in one setting, probably in the same state or something like that. So it's a lot more claustrophobic, which they could play on that as well. But yeah, for sure, Insidious 2010, and then I'd say the weakest one is probably The Last Key. I think everyone can agree on that too. I mean, the box office numbers aren't bad, but you want to have something that remains the test of time.
By the fourth sequel, it was kind of diluted by then, right? It's like, the third one wasn't even that scary, to be honest. I mean, they tried to also implement the red demon as like a jump scare towards the end, but it's like, why was he there? After, because it was supposed to be like a prequel anyway, so that didn't make sense. But then, like, by The Last Key, it's like the key demon didn't even really scare me that much either. So it's like it didn't really give me much in terms of like, what made it relevant in terms of the franchise, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue here is, what's the deal? What's up with these asshole like ghosts? Like, well, what's really? It's just, you guys are here just to scare me. What's the deal? Right. What do you really want? And I felt like Insidious and Insidious Chapter 2 did that really well, handled that really well. Insidious Chapter 3 and The Last Key felt like The Last Key tried to play with that. Like, what did it want? But for the most part, I think the first two movies did it a lot better. But I mean, all in all, I think it's a fun franchise. It's pleasant to see it make a return, and hopefully it's going to be a good return.
Yes. Well, we have, of course, the new movie coming up. We will be doing a review for that. I just want to get your quick thoughts. What do you expect we'll see for that one?
Well, there was some set photos. I really wonder if Rose Byrne's character is dead because it took place in a funeral. I don't think so. So I think she just dyed her hair, and that's why people are confused. We also see that Ty Simpkins' character, Dalton Lambert, he's a lot older. So I think your past demons is kind of metaphorical, right? Your past demons follow you. And it's kind of the same thing, like, your father, you take on his sins or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I think this will probably close loose ends because it's called the Red Door. That's like symbolic for Insidious. So it probably could close loose ends. But I also feel like they're trying to see if this movie will do really good critically. And then if it does, then they could plan accordingly. It's also Patrick Wilson's first directing debut. So that's really fun to see. Good luck to him. I think we're going to see face off with the Red Demon. I think that's going to be the main antagonist finally, and either it's going to go well or it's not. It's going to be a battle to the death in the Further.
Dalton's going to put on some fucking boxing gloves and be like, throw hands with the Red Demon or some shit. He's exactly like, come here. It's like a Rocky Balboa or something.
Right, exactly. It's like Creed 3.
He's like, come on, Renee, I gotta do this. I gotta beat the Red Demon.
I don't care, Dalton. I don't care, Rock. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, well, for sure there's probably a sequel for Chapter 2, like a direct sequel, I guess, because Dalton's a little older, perhaps. Yeah, I wonder, like, will the Red Door hold the answers as far as like what the Further is? Or also, they never really explain like why they have these like psychic powers or these astral projection. It's just kind of like, oh, they have them. So I kind of want to know, like, is it like certain people that have them, or it's like, are there like a select few that can really like go into this world?
We need to know now, yeah, because I don't want to have that ability. I'm sure you, the viewer, don't want to have that ability.
You are the demon. You're the demon of my dreams.
I'm just tricking you. That's why I don't want for you to notice.
Shit. Yeah, I just kind of like, I'm curious, like how like certain people, especially like Elise, like how do they acquire these powers? Like why they specifically are chosen to go into Further? What is the Further? That's kind of like the upside down from Stranger Things. Like I kind of want to know more. Like as a good conclusion, like. And perhaps we'll probably see like more spin-offs in the future. I mean, every horror, it's like Falcons, is like everybody's got a gimmick now. So,
yeah, exactly.
So probably, I'm for sure this probably won't even be the last in the series. Probably they'll, like The Conjuring, they'll have their own universe building. Although I think The Conjuring is, like I said, a much stronger franchise in terms of continuity. So, but Insidious is also pretty much a trendsetter in terms of horror too. So I wouldn't, doubt that they would try to want to expand the lore, behind the Further and the red-faced demon and all the other, demons, right?
Sure, absolutely. Well, do you have anything else to say before we wrap up? Fuck it.
I was expecting like the red faced demons like behind me all this time. I don't know why. I always laugh when like she screamed. I always thought like her reaction was disingenuous.
Really?
Like the red. No, that scene was scary, but then she's like. Like it's so disingenuous. Like it's kind of like anticlimactic.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Jenna Ortega was in this movie too. This is like her first debut, I guess.
As a little girl, yeah. It's crazy how time passes. Wow, geez Louise. I mean,
premonitions.
Yoda gets involved. That's what I had to bring after Elise.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's all in all, I think it's an iconic franchise for its mascot, the Red Demon, and I also think the first movie will be iconic. I'm not so sure if the other movies later down the line would actually remain, and actually stand the test of time. I think the first one is a cool movie to come back to, and it's James Gunn's outing really in this type of
James Wan.
Or James, well, sorry, exactly. There's so many James these days. James Wan's, outing and just a step forward into the right direction of how to craft a brilliant demon-centered or ghost-centered type of movie. So, I mean, good luck to any other director I feel like sometimes when you have a shift in directors, it changes the franchise too, which sucks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's what happened with Indiana Jones. We just did a revisit for that. But yeah, I mean, I still enjoy these movies. I think I will always check them out, have a fun scare and whatnot. But yeah, that is our revisited look behind you guys for Insidious. Guys, if you like this video, exactly. Shit. Well, yeah, you guys be sure to look behind you, and if you find a like button behind you, make sure to touch it and actually like it. All right, we need that. We need the help on this channel.
You imagine a big ass like button just.
That's everybody who don't like us. Are like, well, help us out. All right, help us stay away from the further if you can. We have plenty of content coming your way. We got a review for Insidious: The Red Door coming your way as well, or coming behind you. Please support the channel any way you can. We love you. As always, we say, Dylan, take us away.
Oh, thanks, guys, and thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.
They're gonna be further away from this channel.